Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 24th of February, year of our Lord 2020-25. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's program, you saw the title of the episode, so you know what we're going to be doing. I want to give a quick shout out to the Detroit Pistons, a game that I was not able to watch tonight, but the buzzer did just sound on it, putting up 148 points on the Atlanta Hawks, securing their sixth consecutive win, a feat that they have not achieved in over a decade. It's been over 10 years since the Pistons won 6 games in a row. That journey, that trudge to the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, the dream is still alive. Cade Cunningham, 38 and 12. Trey almost had 40. Unfortunately, he sucks and is awful. People mention that he sucks. They always forget to mention that he is also awful. I would say that blanketed statement could just refer to the Atlanta Hawks as a franchise right now. Sucks to suck. 365 days ago right now, the team that I root for had won like 6 games. And right now, they are 4 games over 500. They are sitting comfortably in a non-play-in spot, subject to change, but right now, with the way that they're playing, folks, we're witnessing something that, as Pistons fans, we have been waiting for a long time. Over a decade since the Pistons last won 6 games in a row, and they did it in a spectacular fashion. Again, wasn't able to watch, which is really too bad. 148 points. Now, they did let up 143 points. Which, if I'm a Hawks fan right now, I'm like, you know how hard it is? In a regulation game, by the way, did not go to overtime, to score 143 points and lose a basketball game. I would be shitting and crying and throwing up and sliding down the wall. How does this happen? When you play the Detroit Pistons in 2025, imagine that. Imagine that. That you can score 143 points. Yeah, it'll happen, but you're going to lose. It's like, you know, I've loved the Pistons this year because they've channeled like past iterations of what the franchise has been, whether it be the bad boys or whether it be the going to work guys. How about the long lost unsung hero of the emergence of the going to work team, which was Rick Carlisle, and his philosophy of, yeah, you might score 143 points, but we're going to score 148 points and win the motherfucking game and win 6 games in a row for the first time in over a decade. Shout out to the Detroit Pistons. They're still doing it. They're still good. It's like, okay, are they good? Yes, comparatively, right? When we talk about how they were a year ago again versus today, yeah, they're a pretty good team. In the grand scheme of things, most people would look at the standings. They're 30 and 26 as of this taping. Is that good? Well, if you strip it of its context, they're fine. They're a completely fine team. But the context is so integral to the conversation here, right? As it pertains to the Detroit Pistons. Yes, I think they are good. Jalen Duren, after the San Antonio Spurs game, was it before or after that game? I think it was actually maybe before the game, that he said Detroit basketball is back. There's a sentiment that you hear not just with the Pistons, it's Detroit sports across the board. Jared Goff has been, he's been on record saying something very similar in recent years, where it's like the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, roots for a very specific type of team. And I think every single one of the teams that we have in Detroit, the 4 major sports, embodies that, which is just like toughness. And it's not like toughness like, I don't know, any team, any team that's good in America right now across the 4 major sports, yeah, they're all going to cite like toughness and grit. It has always been fundamentally different what that actually means when a Detroit team is good. It's just true, right? And I think that all of them, I would maybe push back on the Tigers a little bit. I thought they were going to get Bregman, and that didn't happen. And that really kind of, a little bit sour grapes over that. Ooh, the Red Sox. Oh, wow. Oh, okay, cool. Was it a 3-year deal? I don't remember what the figure was. Cool. I hope he sucks, honestly. I hope he's not good. Scott Harris just kind of like, because his whole thing with not going after Bregman was there were still a lot of good players available in free agency in Major League Baseball. And so they didn't want to overpay for somebody, and they were just kind of waiting to see who fell through the cracks so that they could just kind of go get them at not a bargain price, but like an actually reasonable one, right? And I think that was what, I don't know, I guess maybe I'm not that plugged in. I thought that was what people were expecting was going to happen with Detroit, and as it relates to Alex Bregman, it did not happen. So this winter has just been a little bit like, oh, so you guys went and got what, like a 40-year-old pitcher? And then no one else is coming to mind right now. Who am I forgetting that the Tigers went after? I don't really think it was, I don't know. The playoff run was really cool. You won a playoff series. I mean, hey, can't be that mad. I can be a little bit mad, though, because it's like, I don't feel like they did anything to build on that. Bats have been a problem in the playoffs. I think that issue was certainly, is exacerbated the right word here. They could not hit for shit or dick or balls. They had nothing. It was like, is Tarek Skubal on the mound? Oh, he is? Things are probably going to be fine. Unless it was like, what was it, game 5 against the Indians, when it was mostly fine, and then he just gets in a jam that he can't pitch out of, and he lets up a grand slam. It's like, okay, I didn't blame Skubal for that. I don't think anybody in the world did. Triple Crown winner, Cy Young winner. And it's like, okay, but you didn't get any bats. At least none that were notable enough to make a discernible difference. I don't know. Maybe things will be different with the Tigers this year. The Red Wings, yeah, I don't know. Ever since they fired their coach, they've been fine. They've had good stretches. They've had bad stretches. I don't know. We'll see. Don't they play Columbus in like one of those outdoor winter classic games? Weird to be doing that in March. Thought that was more of like a January type beat. Kind of weird to be doing that as soon as we start to hit like the mid 40s. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. We'll see how the Wings do. But as far as the Lions and the Pistons, which is the piece de resistance right now, I think we need to figure out what they're going to be called, because this team is clearly good. Oh, here's a little thing. I want to maybe point this out too. Did you guys see, I almost don't even want to cover this because it feels like too much internet brain rot, but I guess I would be remiss if I didn't. So Malik Beasley, who crossed the threshold in terms of Pistons history, most threes ever made by a single Piston in franchise history, he did that before the All-Star break even happened. Does a live stream with noted kick streamer Neon, for those of you who are familiar. If you're not familiar with him, just imagine like the most bullshit Gen Zer in the world who's an asshole. And like, I don't really like to say this about people. I don't think he deserves his success. I think he's a horrible person. I think he's deplorable. He's detestable. I think he's synonyms. Well, they did a stream together at the Pistons practice facility, the PPC. And they kind of, they went around doing a bunch of stuff. It was cool that the Pistons were getting like that press, I guess. And sort of getting like an insight. I don't know. I don't really know how to, but it just bothered me that it was Neon. If it was literally anybody else. I don't really like XQC, but if it was him, he wouldn't give a shit about basketball. I don't know. I'm trying to think of who's like the lowest streamer that I would have been okay with. It just sucked that it was him. Well, Malik Beasley had a funny moment where he thought that the cameras were cut and the stream was over. And he must have looked at somebody off camera who, like, I don't know, had some fucking backwoods or something. And he was like, spark that shit up. I'm trying to get high. And they were like, the cameras are not off yet. The cameras are not off yet. But also, who cares? It's funny. He made a comment in there about he shows Neon like all the Larry O'Brien trophies that the Pistons have, all three of them thangs. And he said there's another one coming within the next 2 years. So that's why I say we need to figure out the identity of this Pistons team. Like, what are we going to refer to them as? It's got to be something like revival adjacent, where we acknowledge the long stretch of what the fuck happened in the last 2 decades. And you know what I mean? Like, we were able to recapture it, which I guess you could argue happened between the bad boys and the going to work team. There were a lot of dark years in between there, you know. I think people also forget that the going to work team wasn't just 2004. That lasted until like 2009. What was it, 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals that the Pistons went to? That's not nothing. Not nothing. There are teams in the NBA who would fall on a grenade just to get to 1. Even if they lost, right? Just to get to 1. Pistons went to like 6 of them motherfuckers in 6 consecutive years? Oh, okay. It's too bad. Shout out to Malik Beasley, though. Fuck Neon. Hate that guy. Grandma, I'm being a little bit crass here. He's a horrible person. He sucks. But okay, let's get to it, folks. You saw the title, The Trial of Adam Silver. We're doing it here today, folks, at the Coping Hour. A lot of lawyers who listen to this show, and it may get messy. I've drafted a 4.5-page legal dossier, an indictment, if you will, in wake of all of the unfavorable messaging that has been put out by NBA fans around the world as it pertains to Adam Silver as the commissioner in the NBA. This is all coming to light because of the All-Star weekend that we just went through. I think specifically the All-Star game itself. You have like a 4-hour event, and like 45 minutes of that was actual basketball. And I didn't watch, but in between, you had like Mr. Beast bullying a kid, getting him to make a 3, like beating Damian Lillard to win $100,000 and threatening to go to commercial. But then the kid hit a shot. Oh, he wins $100,000. Okay, all right. I haven't seen the footage yet. I don't think I ever will because I don't care. I guess Kevin Hart started like emceeing in the middle of the game and was like, man, what's the deal with centers shooting threes? You should be in the paint. And then he just started like roasting a bunch of the players. And they're like, can we start playing the game? There's a bunch of stuff that rubbed people the wrong way. So I thought that it would be appropriate here at the Coping Hour, where we cover all the biggest stories and we cover them from all angles. I don't know if there's a bigger story in basketball right now. And I think that the main angle that I should be taking on this whole thing is litigation, to be honest with you. And so that's what we're going to be doing. Again, a 4.5-page indictment that I have typed up. Some of it through the help of you at home, the field reporter, the constituency of the Coping Hour. Now, we may get a little bit confusing here because I will be playing judge, jury, and executioner. I will be playing the role of the judge, the prosecution, and the defense. So I'm going to, even me sitting in the chair, right? I don't know how you at home are going to get through this. I don't know. Maybe there won't end up being a confusing moment. But I think I may get I may kind of get my wires crossed and wait a minute. What am I saying right now? Is this defense? Am I prosecuting? I'm not sure. But folks, without further ado, let's open the litigation. And what are the charges? What are the charges here? I think we're trying to figure out, in the last little over a decade that Adam Silver has been the commissioner of the NBA, I think we're trying to charge him with either being a jackass commissioner or being that's a commissioner. You know what I mean? I think we've all kind of moved on from the days of, you guys remember like 2019? There was a story that came out in the Washington Post that there were anonymous NFL owners who had contacted Adam Silver. And they were like, we want you to run our league. There were anonymous CEOs of Fortune 500 companies who were like, can you run our companies? There was a point, we would be lying to ourselves if we said that this did not happen. There was a point in time when Adam Silver was like the guy, and Adam Silver was viewed so favorably. And I think maybe we're trying to get, this is coming to me in real time, maybe in some way we're trying to get to the bottom of, when did this flip? When did we as a culture, as a zeitgeist, as synonyms, decide that this was not the guy that we're that fond of? Or maybe that actually hasn't happened, and we are just being reactionary in this moment. Because that is the way that we, as not just fans of sports, but as people of Earth, have been conditioned by our media apparatus, is to be reactionary And the thing that you just saw, the thing that you just heard, is actually an indictment on what our opinion of this thing is. And it is the true encapsulation, the true reflection of what our opinion is, the thing that just happened, until something different happens tomorrow night. Does that make sense? So, folks, without further ado, the Court of the Coping Hour would like to introduce some minor infractions that Adam Silver is not necessarily guilty of, but has partaken in since he, I don't know how to say this, took the throne as the commissioner of the NBA about 10 years ago. Let's start with this. Something that I think we can all agree on is that, for better or worse, it is not a bad thing that Adam Silver likes to try new things, that he is willing to accept change and even force change at times. Sometimes maybe it feels like it's just for the sake of doing it. But things that I'm talking about here, you have the in-season tournament, the NBA Cup, sponsored by Emirates, the play-in tournament, new all-star formats kind of every single year. We're doing something a little bit different, or we're doing something majorly different. The all-star thing specifically is what I don't think anybody has ended up being on board with. The first year, you want to talk about, we would be lying if we didn't acknowledge this thing. We would be lying as a culture if we said that the first year that we started drafting all-star teams, that wasn't awesome, that didn't rule. Because it did. It just did. Everybody was excited about that because for years people had proposed that. Like, at this point, man, let's just do some schoolyard shit where we're just drafting teams and we go out there and, you know what I mean? We do team captains. And guess what? Adam Silver heard that. He absorbed that feedback and he said, let's implement it. It's the All-Star game. Who cares? We can sell this to our partners, to our sponsors, and we can make some bucks. And so they tried that for a few years. It's always fine. It always went fine at best. It was received very medium in its best case scenario, which was what? I don't even know. Is the most memorable All-Star game under Adam Silver's watch something I have not thought about this. I'm thinking this one out loud. Thinking about this one out loud. Most memorable All-Star game under Adam Silver's watch was probably when they did the target score and it was 24 in the fourth quarter because Kobe Bryant had just passed away like a month prior. And so emotions were still super high. I couldn't tell you who won. I couldn't tell you how it went, but I do remember that happened. What else is there? The All-Star game in Toronto, you had, oh God, how has this one aged? Jesus, another thing that this just kind of came to me. That photo of Kobe and LeBron one-on-one on the wing, and you have Drake right behind them, like standing up and clapping. I remember people at the time being like, how do we Photoshop Drake out of this photo? And I was like, shut up. Like, if anybody should be in that photo from this All-Star game in terms of, like, the crowd, you know what I mean? It would be Drake. That just makes sense. Like, if it was in New York and it was Spike Lee, you're not going to say, hey, let's Photoshop Spike Lee out of this picture. No, because culturally, that is very much part of that moment, right? You fast forward the clock a little bit into 2025. Yeah, sure, hindsight's 2020. And at the end of the day, I don't really care what happens. I'm still going to be a Drake girly. I gave up on the new album, though, with Party. I fucking don't care. I'm not here for R&B. I'm here for fucking raps, brother. Yeah, how does that one aged? That photo. I don't want to dive too much into this because I'll sidetrack myself. And I really want to stay on topic for this. Most memorable All-Star game. The point of it, though, is that he's willing to try new shit. You could also throw the NBA bubble in there, by the way. You can't really say that that's like a new... I mean, it was a very new thing. It was a very... conceptually, it was very, very unique. We had never seen something like that before. And, really cross your fingers here. You hope that we never see something like that again. But I think that the NBA did the absolute best that it could with the hand that it was dealt. And, by the way, it was a major success. It absolutely worked. maybe another thing in retrospect, feels a little bit dystopian. You remember when the bubble was happening and people were like in the stands virtually? They were just on Zoom for like the entire game. How fucking crazy is that to think about? But it was a success. I mean, I don't know. How many of the players broke protocol? Daniel House, he just got too horny. He just got way too horny, and he tried to invite a woman, and they were like, no, you can't do that. That was also the moment. You want to talk about minor infractions? This isn't really an infraction, but it's just sort of like maybe a non-consequential thing. But also is like shut up, just say what it is. Well, I talk about Malik Beasley saying, like, let's spark this bitch up. I want to get high. The bubble was when Adam Silver was like, we are not going to test players for weed anymore. If you want to smoke weed, you can smoke weed, and you can get away with it because we're not going to test you, which was always crazy. It has always been crazy that is something that the NBA or any sports league or any company, any place of business has ever cared about ever is their employees smoking weed. You give Adam Silver credit for that because it's like, sure, it should have never been a problem in the first place, but he was one of the first people. I don't want to say it was like a forward-thinking move, but he was one of the first people to just fucking get over it. It's peak COVID. I mean, COVID had only been going on for like, when did the bubble start? July? 4 months? You're going to isolate these people? Were there families in there? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. They were able to smoke some weed. Thank God for that. So as the defense here, I'm going to say fair play on Adam Silver there. Now, if I was the prosecution, I would say objection. But as the judge, I'm going to say ignored. Fuck, what is it? It's not sustained. It's not sustained. Ah, shit. It's not sustained. Overruled. Prosecution, continue to let the defense speak on this. Yeah, because I look back on the bubble, and sure, people like to make the jokes about it, but it was something that you talk about. I think I just said this, but it was the hand that they were dealt, and they made do with what they were able to do, and they were able to get through it. Play-in tournament, I'd say that's a mixed bag on how people feel about it. Some people think it's just a more basketball for the sake of more basketball, and you think about selling things to partners and sponsors, and yes, it is just another way to generate a little bit more revenue. How long does the play-in last? 4 days? 5 days in total? Yeah, I mean, how much juice do you really squeeze out of that? Apparently enough to keep it going, right? At least for a few more years. In-season tournament, I think that's only been a success. Honestly, I don't think that... I think the prosecution has just taken a back seat to this conversation, because what are you really going to say to sort of downplay it? I mean, I think what we've said on this show continually is it was only going to work if you got the players on board with it, because that indicates to the fans that, okay, so this is something that I should care about because the players care about it. Well, the players only care about it because they are incentivized financially, and it's not even them being selfish and Giannis being like, yeah, I'm getting paid $50 million a year and I want an extra $1 million. He's like, no, dude, I want that extra $1 million for the guy on the end of the bench. Incentivization is incentivization. I don't care how it happens. If you care about this thing, I will care about this thing. And through the 2 years that since its inception, they have cared about it. And ipso facto, so do we at home. The in-season tournament has been a success. Those were the minor infractions. What if we go like a little bit heavier, though? I now give the floor to the prosecution in the trial of Adam Silver. Well, that Nike deal did happen under Adam Silver's watch. Yeah, I don't know. You guys remember we were like a week into the new NBA season with the Nike jerseys, and there was like a little bit of chatter about the quality of them, and then the pro Nike heads were like, shut up, it's Nike, they'll be fine. You remember when Ben Simmons got his jersey ripped clean off of his body? You guys remember that? It may be tough to remember a game that Ben Simmons actually fucking played, Dog, it got like he was in the fucking Three Stooges. Like Mo walked up to him and was like, knock, 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 and ripped that shit off of his back like a fucking pair of tearaway pants. Ben Simmons just wasn't wearing a jersey anymore, but it was like an NBA on-court, in-game grade uniform, torn off of him. We haven't, there were a few more instances, throughout the season of that happening, but after that, it wasn't a thing anymore, so they clearly changed the little micro fibers of the jersey to mitigate that from ever being an issue again. But I think the issue here, as the prosecution that I have with the Nike contract, and I hate that I'm going to say this, I hate that I've become this guy, truly, but like there are too many jerseys. There just are, because when I turn on a game and the Pistons are at home, for example, and they're wearing their blue jerseys, they're wearing their road blues, that's disgusting to me. I think that's deplorable. If I'm turning on a Hawks game and they're wearing their red uniforms at home, like what are we doing? Like the sanctity of these uniforms has to matter a little bit. I just think it does. It's cool when you throw in, a couple alternates every year, even if most of the alternates are dumb and just cash grabs and just another way for the NBA and for Nike to make $180 off of a jersey. You know what I mean? But Jesus, man, there has to be some continuity to when, where, and why we wear these uniforms. I don't see that much conversation about this. I hope you at home agree. It doesn't matter if you agree or not. I'm the fucking prosecution here. So Nike jerseys, this is a medium infraction, I would say. Let's move on to something else. How about this new CBA? Does that count? I'm talking specifically about the second apron. My problem with the second apron, and by the way, this is not, objection. This is not exclusively Adam Silver. Sustained defense, I will allow you to continue with this. Well, it is also the Players Association. I should be mad at the Players Association if I'm fucking mad about the second apron. Overruled. Back to the prosecution. Well, the problem with the second apron is that, look, you can go down to the comments. You can email me, copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description wherever it is that you listen to the program. You can tell me it's actually not that hard to fucking understand. And if you just read this, here's the problem that I have with the actually bitches telling me that they understand the second apron. I don't know which is the bigger problem here, that you're lying to me or that you're lying to yourself, because you don't. I believe that in 5 years we may have a better grasp on like what it actually even means. But right now, presently, the day that this releases, you fucking don't. All right? All you know is that, okay, so teams can only have a certain amount of players who get paid this much money. But then once you exceed that, then someone's got to get traded. Someone's got to go. You could argue that that's what the Mavericks just did. We're not here to do that. They were like, that was the forward thinking from Nico Harrison is, oh, well, we didn't want to pay Luka this much money, get into the second apron. So we got ahead of it and we just traded him and we sort of started from scratch, so to speak. No. And if I have to be someone practicing law to understand the collective bargaining agreement of the league that I watch, that's annoying to me. And I'm not mad about like the legal speak of the whole thing. That's just how a CBA works. But I don't want to have a fucking master's degree in aerodynamics to understand words on a piece of paper. It's a bad collective bargaining agreement. I also think that players, I need to flesh that point out before I say it. I don't want to say that. But I was going to say that I think that there are players in the league that have destroyed the era of player empowerment that we have come to know for the last decade plus, closer to 15 years, in the NBA. I think those days are done, and I think there's an argument to be made. Maybe we will do this in the future, but this is the trial of Adam Silver, not the trial of the NBA Players Association, that the players kind of have been sold down the river, so to speak. What else is there in minor infractions? Well, I'm throwing out this one as the prosecution. more so on behalf of you at home, the people who helped me out with this and you sent in emails or you left comments. This was just a very popular one, and so I would be remiss if I didn't include this and give some commentary on it. Objection! Objection! This is conjecture from a third party that has overruled. Let the prosecution speak. Thank you, Judge. That the NBA is a little bit too soft on, or rather way too soft, on domestic violence infractions, or however you want it. Basically, if you're an NBA player and you beat the shit out of your significant other, you'll get a slap on the wrist, and within 365 days, the odds are that you're going to be back in the NBA. Maybe on a different team, but you'll at least be back in the NBA. It's true, but I don't blame Adam Silver for that. I don't think it's not exclusive to the NBA, is my thing. So it's like, if you want to get mad at Adam Silver, you can, as long as you're also getting mad at literally everybody else. Like in the NFL, I think the NFL is a good example of Ray Rice, running back for the Baltimore Ravens a couple of years ago. That had to be a decade ago at this point, if not more. If there was not a video that came out of Ray Rice, I mean, wailing on his partner in a fucking elevator, wailing on her, bolded, italicized, underline. If that video did not come out, dude, he would have rushed for like 4,000 more yards in his career. Like, seriously, he would have been playing for 6 more years because it was Ray Rice. He was awesome. I don't know about 4,000 yards, but you get my point. Because I don't remember what it was before that video came out, but he was not in that much trouble, right? I did a segment on this recently. I don't remember. I think I may have cut it out because I said something in it that I just didn't like. I may have left some of it in there, so I don't know what I'm going to be repeating here and what I'm not. But it is clear in the NBA that as far as domestic violence goes, you get one. You just do. You get one, and then after that, we'll have a conversation about it. That's right. I think I left this in the show. I said something about Josh Primo, and I was like, unless you show your penis to women, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. What's something else you're not allowed to do in the NBA? I guess you can't take painkillers. You can't take anxiety medication or whatever the fuck it was that Bobby Portis took and got suspended for 25 games. I don't know. Yeah, well, who was the guy in Major League Baseball within the last couple of years? This was semi-recently at this point. What's the guy's name? Wander Franco? What the hell was that guy's name? I almost said Francisco Lindor. That guy's clean. He's got a clean sheet. I don't think he did anything wrong. If he did, it was not what I'm about to say. There was a guy who played for the Rays who had sex with a child or sent explicit pictures back and forth with a child. It was something like that. That guy got banned forever, right? That guy's out of the picture completely, which is good. But I'm just saying, like, anything short of that, the odds are, unless you're like Oscar Pistorius and you're in the bathroom and then you hear somebody walk into your apartment, but like nobody was actually there, and you just start fucking blasting out of the door and you kill your girlfriend. I don't know, like, you're just gonna get another contract. You just will. So is that an Adam Silver problem? No, not exclusive to Adam Silver, but it is a problem. Does that make sense? So it's like, well, I don't know. Be the change you want to see in the world, right? Is that the take? Is that the take there? Should I just end it there? So it's like, if I cannot blame Adam Silver all I want, but if he really cared about this, then he would do something about it. Yeah, okay, yeah. Be the change that you want to see in the world. See, I was prosecution, and then I flipped over to defense at the end of it. Now, this is where, folks, we move on to some stuff that we're going to get in the weeds, all right? You want to get sick? You want to get nasty? Do you want to have as low nuanced of a geopolitical conversation as we have had on this show? Because I'm just kind of trying to get to the bottom of it, and I may skip a lot of stuff along the way. But if we're talking about Adam Silver, as it pertains to his time in the chair of commissioner of the NBA, we cannot not mention the China stuff. So let's start there. The handling of the China incident, as it is referred to, is something that it still gets brought up. So what happened? Well, in 2019, then general manager of the Houston Rockets, Daryl Morey, tweeted in support of the pro-democratic Hong Kong protesters. Adam Silver pressured him to delete that tweet, and just 2 days later referred to Daryl Morey's tweet as a regrettable action. LeBron James chimes in. He gets involved in this whole thing. And he goes on Twitter and he says that Daryl Morey was, quote, misinformed before sending the tweet. LeBron also said that he and his teammates had stayed silent on the issue because they were, quote, not informed enough, unquote. As a little subtake in there. Wasn't there also something about Steve Kerr, who, like, Steve Kerr, sort of like the arbiter of morality, him and Greg Popovich, they're like the libs of the NBA, right? So if there's something happening, not just domestically, but internationally, you will hear something from Greg Popovich, which, by the way, rest up, King Greg Popovich. Hope you're doing okay. Sounds like he's not doing okay, but hope you're okay, dude. You will hear from these two dudes, right? Steve Kerr was asked about it. He was like, yeah, I just don't know enough about it. Bullshit. Shut up. And it makes complete sense when you think about who the sponsors of the Golden State Warriors are and were at the time, that Steve Kerr suddenly would not be very informed on what was happening in China. Where was I? Adam Silver went on to say publicly that, quote, it is inevitable that people from around the world, including from America and China, will have different viewpoints over different issues. It is not the role of the NBA to adjudicate those differences. I will repeat that so that you remember it when we cross that bridge again in just a second. It is not the role of the NBA to adjudicate those differences. Now, what ended up happening as a consequence is China blacked out the rest of the Rockets games. That was it. They got a couple of sponsorships pulled. James Harden was huge in China at the time, and they were like, fuck you, fuck the Rockets. You can't watch the Rockets games in China anymore. And that quote that I just mentioned, being, it is not the role of the NBA to adjudicate those differences, that came from Commissioner Adam Silver. I think that is interesting because slightly under a year later, COVID happens. We were talking about the bubble earlier. Well, one of the things that came with the NBA bubble were the social justice messages that were on the back of NBA player jerseys in favor of, or not rather in favor, not in favor of, but like in the stead of their last names, right? That came in wake of George Floyd being murdered in what probably proved to be the more polarizing instance of police brutality on a black person since Trayvon, probably when George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin, which by the time George Floyd got murdered, was, when did Trayvon get murdered? Like 2012, somewhere around there. It's a big deal. People got riled up. We got riled up at home. My girlfriend got arrested at a protest. Like, dog, we were in the streets. That shit affected everybody, for better or for worse. Everybody knew about that. And the NBA understood its role in that whole thing. They understood the demographics of who was playing in their leagues. And so, like, you have motherfuckers playing on the court that are like, invest in societal infrastructure. That's like what it says on the back of their jersey. Or like, divest in health insurance and kill their CEOs and shit like that. And you're like, so what is this? So it's not the role of the NBA to adjudicate political or social issues until it would positively reflect on the league and satisfy the people who play it. Okay. Okay. So we have Black Lives Matter and social justice messaging on jerseys in the bubble. And LeBron explicitly tweets about the plight of the Black American and their experiences of brutality and violence at the hands of police. when like 12 months earlier, objection, this is about Adam Silver. I don't know why the prosecution is going after LeBron James. Sustained. We'll move on to something else. As it pertains to Adam Silver in 2017. By the way, I just want to cover my bases on that. This is me. This is the host. This is Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Moton Noah, talking. How fucking crazy is that to look back on? Just like what that was as a snapshot in time. Because I look back on it, and at the time, I believed that it was the right thing to do. I guess in retrospect, yeah, it was the right thing to do. But I guess what is interesting to me is like, who was it for? When you have players like taking knees, and listen, it's one thing for me to speak on this shit because it's not my reality. You know what I mean? It's not my world. But here's my point though: is when you have players wearing shirts. Remember in like 2014, Eric Gardner gets killed because he's selling loose cigarettes, and you have a police officer putting a knee on his neck. I can't breathe. You saw the players wearing I can't breathe shirts, right? I don't have a problem with that. My thing is like, it's a funny snapshot in time because the people who were about it and who were with what the NBA was trying to do were just with it, but like you weren't changing anybody's minds, right? Because the people who were against it weren't going to like see those messages. They saw Jonathan Isaac not kneeling and like not complying with the cause and not being a sheep. And they sort of attached themselves to him, but nobody saw, I don't know, is it really worth reopening the can of worms that was / still is Black Lives Matter? Probably not. It's a good thing. Who was the comedian that it was Nick Mullen. He had a whole routine about this where he was like no, don't do this. Get back to the case. In 2017, the prosecution has, recess has adjourned. We are now back in the courtroom, okay? In 2017, NBA.com produces an interactive list of the league's favorite players from around the world, which gave users of the website the ability to click on their own country and see which players polled the highest from wherever it is that they're from, right? You live in Romania, you can hover over Romania and see, oh, people like Giannis, and, you know, people from my country, they like Giannis and they like Jokic or whoever, not in 2017, but you know what I mean? Shit like that, right? In this online poll, the NBA originally had, quote, occupied Palestinian territories, unquote, listed before Israeli sports and culture minister Miriam Regev sent a letter to the NBA saying, quote, I view the inclusion of occupied Palestine in the list of countries appearing on your official website as legitimizing the division of the state of Israel and as gross and blatant interference in contrast to the official position of the American administration and the declarations of President Donald Trump, who just recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, end quote. The NBA's president of social responsibility goes on to respond. The NBA's president of social responsibility. You know what I mean? What the fuck are we doing here? Goes on to respond to Israeli national news saying, quote, we do not produce the country listings for NBA.com, and as soon as we became aware of it, the site was updated to reflect the current geographic land acknowledgement. We apologize for this oversight and have corrected it, unquote. Jesus Christ. Now, this is once again peeling back the curtain. This is me. This is Nick talking. Adam Silver is Jewish, okay? A couple of you guys sent in emails calling him a lizard. We're calling him a bug. And even if I know exactly what you were trying to say, I did feel, because two things can be true. One, I think you can criticize the state of Israel without it being inherently anti-Semitic, right? Even if you conflate the two things, which at this point I think it's hard not to. Israel is Judaism and Judaism is Israel. I think that's maybe where a lot of people are at these days. But I don't think I don't think it's binary. I think it's a lot messier than that. I really didn't want to go down the the road of calling Adam Silver a lizard or a bug and have it be a mistake. Even if we all know what I'm actually trying to say, just visually, he's got funny features, right? His eyes are there. He's got bug eyes. I didn't really want to call him a lizard though, because then you're bordering on like real life anti-Semitism, right? So I didn't really want to do that. But you also have to contextualize that and say like, well, of course he was going to side with Israel here. How many camps do they run there? David Robinson does camps there all the time. Draymond Green was like hanging out with the fucking IDF a couple of years ago and was like shooting guns with them. Like the unit that he was with like a week prior had been killing fucking civilians. So I don't know. This is something that I don't know. It's so messy. And then in 2014, Dwight Howard just tweeted Free Palestine. That's all he tweeted. He's Free Palestine. And was immediately pressured to delete it. That is alleged because the NBA very recently, look this up, in like January, the NBA comes out and refuted this. I guess he maybe went on a podcast and talked about this. 10 years ago, I tweeted Free Palestine. The IDF rolls into Gaza. They get the shit kicked out of them. Not really. You look at the numbers. That was a big moment, I think, for the IDF when they realized that they didn't, they had no concept of the interconnectedness of the Hamas tunnels because they started getting hit from a bunch of different angles. There was like a troop transport before any of the soldiers could even get out. Bam! Fucking exploded. There was a commanding officer who got their fucking head peeled off, and then they just back right out of there. But then you look at the numbers, and it was, I don't remember what the figures were for the IDF, but like 70% of the people who were killed on the Palestinian side were civilians, shit like that. So Dwight Howard goes to Twitter, and he's like, Free Palestine. Like, what's up? Free Palestine. Adam Silver allegedly was like pressuring him to delete that shit. Somebody was, at least. A little bit of he said, she said here. Kyrie Irving has kind of been out in recent weeks, months, years, sort of conveying some similar messaging. What did Dwight Howard say after that? Well, the NBA refuted it, and after Dwight tweeted that in 2014, like 10 minutes after that, he said, quote, previous tweet was a mistake. I have never commented on international politics and never will, unquote. So, yeah, the prosecution kind of fucked this one up. There's a lot of evidence here. The legal dossier got a little bit dicey. Legal dossier got dicey. Say that one 5 times fast. Let's move on to something different. Because even if Adam Silver loves Israel and he will turn a blind eye to domestic violence, you know what Adam Silver won't turn a blind eye to? For all of his faults, racism. Adam Silver fucking hates racism. And this is indicated by the first thing that he had to do. The first thing that Adam Silver, the guy's chair wasn't even warm yet as the commissioner. And Donald Sterling, former owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, we all know the story at this point. But for legal proceedings, for the sake of litigation, it is important that we reopen this. Gets caught on video and on audio tapes just being racist. Just like dudes rocking out, just being crazy, being racist, saying that Magic Johnson has AIDS and that you shouldn't, he said to his girlfriend, you shouldn't hang out with him. He's right about the autoimmune disease, but it's not nice. Shouldn't say that about Magic Johnson. He's a really nice guy. That he is not defined by his condition, Donald Sterling. What the fuck is that all about? And he said to his girlfriend that he didn't want her hanging out with black people and that he didn't want her bringing them to the games. And then the Clippers, they protest, and basically all of the owners in the NBA got together and they just voted him out. They're like, you're a racist piece of shit and we don't want you to own a basketball team. Literally everybody in the world was like, fair play. Because the audio was just, I was so damning. You're just like, yeah, that's a guy who's super fucking racist. Adam Silver goes out on the podium. Donald Sterling is banned for life. Round of applause for Adam Silver. He did the right thing. He banned Donald Sterling for life. But then you fast forward to 2021, 7 years after Donald Sterling. In 2021, the NBA launches an independent investigation after claims emerged of rampant racism and misogyny aimed at the Phoenix Suns and Mercury owner, Robert Sarver. A little under a year later, in 2022, the NBA concludes its investigation and they fine Robert Sarver $10 million and suspend him from any and all roles within either of those two organizations for 1 year. Adam Silver cited that these punishments were the maximum allowed by the NBA. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, wait, but he banned Adam Silver for life. Could he not do this here? Objection! They are not the same cases. Okay, defense, sustained. I'll hear you out here. Adam Silver, my client, said that the reason that these two cases were not the same were because legal jargon, yada, yada, yada. It was like he said, she said, is what Adam Silver was saying. Adam Silver was like, well, there was damning evidence to suggest that Donald Sterling was racist, i.e., he got caught in 4K being super fucking racist. And all we have right now is like personal anecdotal experiences of Robert Sarver being racist, and so we can't actually prove it. But like the evidence that we had heard, back to the prosecution has the floor. The prosecution that we had heard was that Robert Sarver was really fucking mad that he couldn't say the N-word. That was like his whole deal. Who was it? I keep saying Earl Watson comes to mind. Is that a real guy? Earl Watson kept saying it to like Draymond Green, and Draymond Green kept saying it back to him. And Robert Sarver was like, well, they can say it. Why can't I say it? Again, just dudes rocking out, being like, why can't I say this word if everybody else can say it? And then the world was like, because it's not yours. I don't think it's yours, Robert. I think that's why you're not allowed to say it. I don't remember what the misogyny piece of the whole thing was. I tried actually pretty diligently to figure out like what was the, like at what point was he like doing weird shit with women. I don't think it was sexual assault. I think maybe this would have been a bigger stink made about this whole thing. Not to say like, oh, he was just mad that he couldn't say the N-word and he didn't sexually assault women. No, he shouldn't do either of those things. But I'm just saying, I couldn't figure out what the misogyny piece of the whole thing was, other than, what do you think his role was in the Brittany Griner prisoner exchange? There's a question. You think he was like, whatever. You think he was just like, Although, I don't know. If I'm Robert's, okay, I'm going to do this, but I need you to know that this is, I'm just going to do the fucking bit. Robert Sarver, like, kicking the can down the road on the Brittany Griner prisoner exchange so that he doesn't have to pay her salary. Can you imagine that? Well, I don't know. I think we just got to let this thing play out, and she can be in a fucking Siberian prison camp, and then I don't know, it's no skin off of my ass. And then she comes back, and do you think that she had to, well, no, it was the off season, wasn't it? That's why she was playing over there in Eastern Europe in the first place. It was because it was the W's off season, and so, like, that's why there's that new 3-on-3 league that like Breonna Stewart and whoever else started here in America, was so that women don't have to go overseas and they can just get paid here because the physical and mental toll that takes. And so, yeah, I mean, women for since the W's inception have been playing overseas in their off season just to keep playing basketball, but also to keep getting paid. Where the fuck was I with this? Yeah, Robert Sarver was just mad that he got caught being a racist. And I remember they asked Devin Booker, they're like, you ever hear him say the N-word? He was like, what the fuck? No. He's like, no, but this is an important investigation, and I kind of hope that they find out that he did so that he can fucking go away. James Jones, the general manager or the president of ops, whatever he was, right, at the time, is like, this is not a reflection of the Robert Sarver that I know. I'd love to figure out the Robert Sarver that you know, because this guy sounds like wild as fuck. What else was there? 1 week after the announcement that Sarver only gets fined $10 million and suspended him for a year, the pushback on this thing was crazy. LeBron chimed in. It's like, if it doesn't pertain to him and it doesn't fuck with his money, or rather, I said two different things. If it pertains to LeBron and it doesn't fuck with his money, he'll chime in on it. But, like, otherwise, Daryl Morey's misinformed. And shut up. LeBron. And, like, that, but that's not a fair thing for me to say, because in this instance, yes, anybody in the world, this isn't just about black Americans, everybody in the world should denounced this behavior from Robert Sarver. It's just the principle of the whole thing, right? Well, the principle is that he was a fucking racist and that he shouldn't have been an owner in the NBA. Prosecution, defense, prosecution, defense, prosecution, defense. 1 week after the announcement of the slap on the wrist that he essentially got, Robert Sarver concedes to the pressure and announces that he will be selling the team. And guess what? Eventually, he did. He sells it to dumbass Matt Ishbia, who at the very least is not racist and it's not misogynistic. We spent years as basketball fans being like, okay, now that Donald Sterling is out of the picture, Robert Sarver is unequivocally the worst owner, not just in basketball, but in sports. And then it's like you were almost, I don't want to say waiting for something like this to come out, but like having a reason to sink your teeth into this thing and be like, thank fucking God that we have a legitimate concrete reason to kick this guy out of here other than he's just a bad owner, right? Like, please give us a reason. We will exercise that reason to make sure that you're gone. And rest assured, folks, that is what happened. And I think that's it. I think I rest my case as the prosecution. As the defense, I believe I also rest my case. Now, as the judge and the jury, I will be staying silent here in a moment for about 10 seconds in deliberation to figure out, is Adam Silver a jackass, or is he just kind of a guy that is a commissioner of a sports league, and that's kind of it? I think it's both. I think it's both, and we'll wait for sentencing. I'm not sure what sentencing is. I don't know. Fuck, I didn't think about this part of the show. It's like, what happens with the sentence? Or like, just the verdict and all of it. I was so focused on the legal dossier, I didn't think about... I don't know. How do I feel about it reactionary? Like, what does reactionary me think after saying all that? Well, I feel like the prosecution did its job in just highlighting a bunch of bad shit that happened under Adam Silver's watch. Did I really highlight any of the good stuff? No, I'm not a defense attorney. I should have said that. Shit, I should have said at the beginning of this whole thing, I'm not a defense attorney. I'm a judge. I'm a jury. I'm a prosecutor. I'm not a defense attorney. Shit, Adam Silver is guilty as hell. He's guilty. Whatever I said that he did in the last hour, he did it. That's exactly what he did. So what's the sentence? Prison. Fuck, we have to send him to jail. Adam Silver, I am sorry to say this, but you will be spending a lot of time in prison. And that was the trial of Adam Silver. What a bad ending. I spent 45 minutes getting fired up about this whole thing just to fall on my face at the end before I get to the finish line. Shit. What else do I have for you guys? copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically, email available in the description. I'm serious, that's it. Available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this program. We got one from a guy, Blazers fan, from Matt. Matt, welcome to the show. This is a long email. I'm going to try to blow through it. I just want to know, am I crazy or is this guy crazy? I feel like he's thinking too hard about this, and I just want to get to the bottom of it. Matt, welcome to the show. Subject line, Trailblazers blatant tanking conspiracy, full deep dive. Rest assured, he certainly does a full deep dive. Hey, Nick, longtime listener and emailer, and just wanted to get your take on what the Blazers are doing / did this year, as absolutely nobody is talking about it, and no one cares about the Blazers, and it is actually outrageous. For context, on January 6th, 2025, the Portland Trailblazers were the 14th seed, 20 games under 500, and well in place for the flag sweepstakes. Then all of a sudden, the Blazers went on 2 separate 5-game win streaks that went completely unnoticed and unheard of in the NBA. At the peak of the win streak, and after the back-to-back blowouts of the Pacers and Kings, the Blazers had jumped the Spurs in the standings for a night on February 6th, 2025, and they were the 12th seed and only a game and a half back of the Warriors and the Suns two teams that they had also beaten on said win streak. All of this is important because of what transpired on February 8th, 2025, and what has happened since. The Portland Trail Blazers were entering a game fully healthy and playing a Timberwolves team ravaged by injuries with no Anthony Edwards. The Blazers, in the midst of a 5-game win streak with Scoot and Denny really coming into their own, proceeded to put up 98 points, and we get completely blown out. The Trailblazers had not won since then until tonight. And you sent this, yesterday, so you sent this on the 22nd. Conveniently, in my opinion, they did not win until they were well out of play-in race, where they blew out the Hornets by almost 60 points themselves and looked like a dominating team that had won 9 of 10. My question to you is what happened between February 6th and February 8th within the organization? Who did Joe Cronin threaten? Was Chauncey criticized or job security threatened for them being too good? Are current Blazers players being incentivized to play bad? There is no way the Blazers, who were winners of 9 of 10, just fell off a cliff like that and then looked elite again in a blink. Something internally was done, and they are going to get away with it. What could have been a really compelling play-in race for 10 between 4 teams is getting robbed from us by Joe Cronin. Anyways, just wanted to... Okay, so the question here is the Blazers were good, and then for a couple nights they fucking sucked, and then they were like kind of good again? It's the NBA, bro. Welcome to professional sports. I don't know. Is it that crazy? Brother, you don't want to get into the play-in in the West this year. If you're the Blazers, you need to look yourself in the mirror and realize what the fuck you have going on. Danny Avdija, I will concede, has played the best basketball of his life this year. But brother, you know what it is. It sounds like you care a lot about your team. Sounds like you're really plugged in, right? I don't care about the Blazers. Not anymore. But here's what I do know. I care about Chauncey. How many months ago was it that, Portland lost by, I swear to God, it was 50 points. We covered it on this show. I'm not being crass when I say what I'm about to say. This is what Chauncey Billups said. He said in the post-game conference, this team is a bunch of fucking losers. He said, I just said to my guys, if you wake up tomorrow and you feel like you can just kind of move on, you're a fucking loser. You shouldn't be on this team because you don't care about basketball and I don't want to coach you. You are all losers. I think Chauncey has done a really effective job in motivating the players and figuring out what works for them and what doesn't. And it may not always be reflected in the wins and losses, but I really think that he is a dude that gets it. There are anecdotes out there about when George Karl was his coach in Denver, that he was almost an assistant because he just knows how it works, man. That guy has a fucking chessboard in his head. NBA champion, by the way, with the Detroit Pistons. So is it that inconceivable to think that a team, played pretty well and then suddenly didn't play very well at all and then kind of got back on the horse? Yeah, CNBA. It doesn't the Timberwolves were ravaged. Brother, you should want Cooper Flag. You want to get into the playoffs this year? For what? You want to be Oklahoma City's lunch? That's going to make you feel better. If you get... at least we made the playoffs. For what? Oh, okay, you can make the play-in and then lose and still have a chance at getting Cooper Flag. The Hawks just did it. They lost to the play-in and they ended up with the number 1 pick. Okay, I guess if that's what you want to do, you want to roll the dice with that, you want to be somewhere in the middle. I'm going to rehash this soon. I remember doing a video a couple of years ago called The Theory of Volatility. I think what I ended up finding out is since the lottery's inception, the average odds in terms of who wins the lottery was 7th. That's the average. So you want to be somewhere in that range. You want to have the 7th best odds to win. Brother, Like, what's the best case scenario from Portland this year? Getting Cooper Flagg and seeing shit from Scoot Henderson, where it's like, oh, you're not a loser and you do actually care. Shaden Sharp. It was like, can we see anything from Shaden Sharp? That was a big goal this year. Denny Avdia. I think he's outkicked his coverage. That's a good thing, right? If you say that, he's outkicked his coverage. He's playing, the return on investment with him seems to be, Sneaky may argue that, like, sell high on Denny Avdia. I don't think he's ever going to play this well again as he's played this year. I don't know. The Blazers, I don't know. I think the aspiration of wanting to get into the playoffs or even the plan with this Blazers team is fucking nuts. Another one, this is a little bit, Matt, I'm not mad at you. I hope I didn't sound too rude there, but what the fuck, brother? This one I thought was funny. In the previous episode, on the tail end of it, I revealed that my son's name is Roman. That was something that I have been very protective of since he's been born, just because I just get scared about people who listen to the show. Sometimes people say things and it just makes me nervous. So I've been very protective of even saying his name. But his name is Roman. And got a suspicious number of emails about that. And this one was my favorite. And I thought it would be fun to walk through this. From Martinez. Martinez, welcome back to the show, brother. I feel like I haven't seen you in here in a while. Subject line, obligatory succession question. Hey, Nick. I was flabbergasted when you just randomly dropped that your son's name is Roman, and it got me thinking. Did choosing to name him Roman have anything to do with succession? Do you ever call him Rome? Did it have anything to do with succession? Maddie is convinced that the answer is yes. The truth is he's not even my favorite character in the show. It's like, I don't even know if he's in my top 3 favorite characters in the show. Tom, number 1. I don't know. On like rewatches, I'm like, the number 1 boy. It's Kendall. How do you not think? Kendall to me is, I don't want to say like the most relatable character in television history, because that would be a really, the optics of that as a reflection on me would be fucking horrible. I think Tom is in some ways though, right? I think Tom's number 1. I love Tom. The way that show ended, no spoilers, but I just felt so vindicated. I was like, I was right the whole time. Probably Kendall too. Rewatches for me make Greg look worse. I was like obsessed with him, and then on rewatches, I'm like, you're a piece of shit. I mean, they all are, but you know what I mean? Who would third be? I don't know. Did we get Roman from Succession? Succession put Roman on our radar for sure. I think that would be the way that I would phrase it. There was a game that there was a receiver who played for Michigan, Roman Wilson. You guys remember him? I mean, was just there a year ago. He's on the Natty team. And there was a day during Maddie's pregnancy. It was a Saturday. She's at work. And I was watching the Michigan game. Because, you know. And I said to her, I go, if Roman Wilson has 3 receiving touchdowns today, I go, we're naming our son Roman. And she goes, deal. Because she didn't really want to do it. Boy names were really hard for us. We didn't have anything. We had like a million girl names. We had nothing for boys. There was nothing that we liked. Roman was just kind of the placeholder the entire time. Roman Wilson ended up having 2 touchdowns in the first like quarter. And I'm texting her, losing my mind. I'm like, holy shit. I swear he didn't get another target the rest of the game. I was like, fuck. Brother, it's crunch time. We're in the hospital. They're inducing her. They're checking how dilated she is. You know, we're in there for a day before anything happens. And, you know, the nurses keep asking, like, do you know the sex? And we're like, yes, it's a boy. And they would always ask, do you guys have a name? And we would say, we think so. But they wouldn't always ask, which we appreciated because the truth is we had no fucking idea. And then there was one woman who ended up being the woman who delivered our son. And she probed. She goes, what did you guys pick? And we go, we think it's Roman. And she goes, oh, like from Succession. Maddie looked at me so fucking annoyed because she is she's just like, that's where you fucking got it from. Again, that's what put it on my radar. So then we're just talking to this doctor about Succession. And she's like, we want to name our son Roman, because she was also pregnant. She was like a month she's in the first trimester. So we just start talking about Roman and we start talking about Succession and shit like that. So yeah, kind of. That's kind of where it came from. It's a brilliant name. Do we call him Rome? Romy Bear? Call him Romy Bear. Call him Rome a little bit, but just Roman is just such a good name. I call him Rome Cenzo, Romadici, Romancio. Call him a bunch of different shit. She keeps trying to call him Scooter. Scoot. Because that's what he does right now is he just scoots all over the place. Whether it's on his butt or he's like crawling around. And I'm like, his name is Roman and he has a dynamite name. Roman Nicholas. His middle name is Nicholas. And then he's got a hyphenated last name. He's got a brilliant name. And then also, I guess I can tell you guys this now. We would never force our son into the profession. You know, whatever he chooses his vocation to be is, that's what he wants to do. But if he does one day want to be a podcaster, Roman's Empire. Yeah, that's the name of the show. That's a verbal trademark, by the way. I better not see any of you pieces of shit out there launching a podcast called Roman's Empire. Cease and desist. Stamped immediately. That's my kids. You're taking food out of my mouth when he goes fucking triple platinum and he buys us a house. Roman's Empire is ours. Verbal trademark. What else do I got? I actually do have a lot of takes about... I watched so much soccer this weekend. I'll just give some quick spark notes. Because I know some of you guys out there, for the people who enjoy the soccer segments, you guys seem to really like it. So I'll feed you guys a little bit here before we get out of here. What ended up happening in the City game? I turned it off at 2-0. Manchester City, Liverpool. Asking Siri. Okay, so it ended up being 2-0. Yeah, Ederson is he's the worst keeper in Europe. I'm telling you, the guy gets paid $4 million a year to sit there with his fucking hands in his pocket and fall asleep in net. Fuck Etihad on the jerseys. Get NyQuil to sponsor the fucking everything and give the guy a pillow. Let him take a nap because he doesn't do anything anymore. He's a joke. Put fucking Onana in there or some shit. Anybody's going to be better than him. I'd argue the Leicester goalie, who's it, Hermanson? How do you say it? At least that guy cares. Ederson gave up. He does not care anymore. Shout out to Liverpool. Congrats to them for winning the league, because at this point it's over. Arsenal pooped their pants. Was it Newcastle that they just lost to? All right. So it's over then. So what is it then? I think Liverpool went into this against City with like an 8-point lead. So what do they got? 11 points up now? It's over. Congrats to them. Last time they won it was the COVID year. Does anybody say Mickey Mouse shit about that? That they won during you know what I mean? Like how they do with the Lakers in the bubble. Are they like, oh, Liverpool, Mickey Mouse here? I know it's different because it's like, well, Liverpool wasn't playing at Disney. But you get what I'm saying? Do people give them shit and make fun of them and say that it's an illegitimate league title because they won during COVID? What else did I watch this weekend? Oh, Leicester. Jesus Christ. I mean, kick them the fuck out. End of the season. You talk about it. You talk about it being over. They're not trying. Drop IU. The guy's a joke. They put Koulibaly in the starting 11, and I got really excited because we had started to see some stuff from him where I was like, oh, okay, he seems like he cares. I guess he cares. I don't know. Vardy had a couple chances early on. Just gets absolutely thrashed by Brentford. I said if it wasn't 3 points that the season was over. What a clown I looked like after that. Jesus. Send them down. Send them down. End it. It's over. Leicester stinks. They're a joke. Brentford is... Whatever. Doesn't matter. What else did I watch this weekend? Oh, I watched the MLS kickoff. I watched the Chicago Fire... Their first game of the year against the Columbus Crew. And I got to be honest, never in my life have I watched an MLS game before. But I'm like, I don't know, it's a local team. I was like, if this is going to be my team, let's check them out. Got a season premiere. What a funny league. What a funny league the MLS is. I don't know, I can't identify yet what is different about the viewing experience in terms of the quality of the soccer that's actually, or the football that's actually being played. There's something different about it, and I can't tell what it is. Some of you out there are going to be like, it's just worse. Yeah, sure. But it's not just that. I can't tell what it is. I don't think it's faster. I don't think it's that at all. The atmosphere is definitely different. That is when you really notice the contrast of international, European fans or South American fans versus American fans in that sport. Because, like, Americans, when they watch soccer, they're not chanting. They're not just like, Ben White is shit and he needs to get in a tanning bed. And also, I don't know, Harry Kane is coming to do a corner and they're like, Jurgen Klopp is your dad, or I don't know. they just heckle. That's not what happens in America. In America, heckling is like, boo, you suck, and like, fuck you, and they throw bottles at their head. Like, it's just kind of that. It's just different. The type of fan is different. So the atmosphere of the game is just fundamentally different, right? Chicago sucked. They're not good. They lost 4-2. Conceded an own goal 25 minutes in, and I was like, oh, oh, this is what it is with this club? I was like, all right, well, this is my team. Because in MLS, I'm not just going to throw a dart at a board and root for the Sounders. You know, I'm not going to root for the Galaxy. Let me root for Miami and watch Messi. The guy doesn't even want to be there. He's going back to Barcelona. I don't know. MLS is, I'm going to try to stick with it, but I don't think I'm going to have that much commentary on it because it's just like Chicago is not good at all. Although I'm being a little harsh. Comparatively, they were even worse last year. I don't care. It's such a funny league. But it's also, it just sucks because Americans' capacity for more sports is just at its limit. You just can't add. You know, Messi coming to the States, it absolutely helps. And I do think that infusion, that star power, was something that was needed. Because, like, you can bring over David Beckham. I'm sure that helped in some way. You can bring over Ibrahimovic. I believe that would have helped in some way. But Messi coming over is just inarguably a completely different thing. And it has absolutely helped. But it's like Americans already pay attention to football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. And adding another sport in there. Like, unless it's the World Cup, which actually is next summer. And it's here. It's in the States and Mexico and in Canada. Well, I guess I say in Canada. By next year, that may be the United States. You guys didn't like, I made a joke about that the other day. You fucking did not like that, you Canadian listeners. I don't want you guys to be part of the United States. I believe that you guys should be a sovereign territory. We are on the same page with what our president is trying to do. Motherfuckers are like, the four nations face off. And Trudeau tweets like, you can't take our territory and you can't take our sport because Canada beat the United States 3-2 in overtime. If you leave McDavid open in the front of the net, you're going to have a bad fucking time. And I'm just kind of like, well, we can't take your sport. I'm just racking my brain here. The last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup. Just racking my brain with that. I'm not going to do that with basketball. Dr. James Naismith was a Canadian. The Raptors did win one a couple years ago. Other than that, it's like, it's not fair because they've only ever had 1.5 teams. It doesn't really count. We can't take your sport. Kind of did, though. We did a little bit, though. When it was like the original 6, and you had like Rocket Richard, and he was just winning all of them. Yeah, it was years then. But like, I don't know who plays it. But hey, four nations face off. Canada won. So I'm just being an asshole. Canada won that. But we won the one before that. So it's like, well, we drew, but then Canada won the championship. So so I guess it is Canada's sport. Okay, well, wait till next year. We'll run this back next year, Canada. We'll run it back next year. If I could trade, let's do that. Let's try to work out like let's do a territory swap. I want Ontario. And Canada can have. You guys want to give them both of the Dakotas? Both of them? Well, no, you can't give them South Dakota because of Mount Rushmore. North Dakota. What do you guys think about Idaho? For Ontario, that's a pretty big. Listen, Canada is a huge trade partner for the United States. Where else are we getting our lumber? South America. But where else are we getting our lumber? Canada. You know how much energy we get from Canada? A lot. You know how much energy we probably get from Idaho? None. Although potatoes can generate electricity. Yeah, well, then this is a fair swap, actually. Okay, I like it. Canada, you don't need to be a 51st state. You guys are sovereign territory. You guys can fight for yourselves. Except unless it's like World War II. One of you guys sent me a fucking email. Oh, don't forget, we burned down the White House. Fucking cool. Do it again. The fuck? You think you've sent some like veiled threats at me? I give a fuck if you burn down the White House. You can kill. I don't fucking care. Ooh, imagine that. Imagine that. Canadians band together to assassinate a political figure in the United States. And they're like, see, take that, America. You can't take us from you. Meanwhile, 90% of the fucking country is like, hell yeah, Canada, Canada. Pieces of shit. Folks, if you're listening to this on Spotify, I love you. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, what's up? What's up? Watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. And I will catch you guys in the next one.